You've probably spent most of your life searching for answers, for meaning, for a sign, something to tell you that you're finally on the right path. But what if the very act of seeking is what's keeping everything out of reach? There's a strange shift that happens in life, not when you figure everything out, but when you finally stop chasing, when you stop trying to force clarity, when you stop scanning the world like there's a missing piece you haven't found yet. Because the truth is, clarity doesn't always come from effort. It comes from space, from silence, from stillness. And that stillness only shows up when we stop filling every moment with noise. See, a lot of people think they need to do more, learn more, become more, but the real turning point often comes when you realize maybe you already have what you need. Maybe life isn't asking you to hunt it down. It's waiting for you to slow down. This video isn't here to give you more things to chase. It's an invitation to pause, to let go, to stop running so hard after peace and give it a chance to catch up to you. Because the second you stop seeking, you might just realize everything you've been looking for was already trying to find you. There's a quiet truth that not many people talk about. The more you chase something, the more it runs. It's not just poetic, it's energetic. When you're in a state of seeking, your mind is subtly saying, what I have isn't enough. Who I am isn't enough. This moment isn't enough. And life reflects that mindset back at you. Opportunities feel scarce. Peace feels distant. Love feels conditional. But the moment you stop gripping so tightly, the moment you stop trying to control the pace of your growth or micromanage how your healing unfolds, something opens. And it's not because you gave up. It's because you got out of your own way. Think about water. It never forces its flow. It curves, it bends, it finds its way, even through rock. That's not weakness. That's nature's highest intelligence at work. Now, imagine living like that, where instead of stressing over when life will make sense, you allow life to show you what it already knows. People often say, I'll feel better once I understand. But in reality, the moment you let go of the need to understand is when peace finds you. And what follows next? A natural clarity, the kind that no amount of thinking could ever produce. Because understanding is not always a thought. Sometimes it's a feeling, a knowing, an alignment that clicks into place once you stop forcing it. We've been taught that control is strength, that the tighter we grip, the more power we have, that if we just try hard enough, we can make life bend to our will. But that's not strength, that's tension. And tension eventually snaps. Real strength is presence. It's being so rooted in your own energy that you stop needing to force outcomes. You stop needing every moment to go your way. You're no longer chasing, fixing, adjusting, proving. You're watching, you're responding, not reacting. And from that space, you make better decisions. You attract healthier people. You notice things you were too anxious to see before. Because when your energy stops racing ahead into the future, you start seeing what's right in front of you. You realize not every door has to be kicked open. Some doors open when you pause, when you breathe, when you stop overthinking every detail of your life and just allow it to move. The things you used to chase begin to gravitate toward you, not because you're being passive, but because you've stepped into a higher frequency, one of trust, of surrender, of knowing that what's meant for you isn't hiding, you were just moving too fast to notice it. And that realization, that's when everything changes. Sometimes the reason life feels so heavy isn't because it's too much. It's because we're carrying what isn't ours to hold. You ever feel exhausted and you don't even know why? It's not just the tasks or the responsibilities. It's the invisible load, the expectations, the obsession with outcomes. We try to predict how things will go. We try to control how people see us. We rehearse conversations in our heads. We panic if things don't move fast enough. And then we wonder why we're tired. But when you let go of that mental grip, something beautiful happens. You start trusting the timing of things, not just saying it, but living it. You stop treating life like a race you're always behind in. And you start realizing that you've never actually been late for anything meant for you. You've just been arriving early with anxious hands and a heart too busy chasing to actually receive. You start to live more. Not because life got easier, but because your relationship to it changed. You're no longer trying to win life. You're trying to feel it, to move through it with peace. There's a power in that kind of surrender. It's not weak, it's magnetic. Because when you no longer need things to happen a certain way, they start happening in better ways than you imagined. That's when you see life was never fighting you. It was waiting for you to stop fighting yourself. There's a certain clarity that arrives when you stop demanding clarity. It sounds strange, but think about it. Some of the most important breakthroughs in your life didn't come when you were trying to figure everything out. They came when you were quiet enough to feel your way through it. You paused, you breathed, and something shifted. Maybe it was small, a moment of peace in the middle of chaos. Or maybe it was big, like suddenly realizing what you truly wanted wasn't what you were chasing at all. That's what happens when you surrender. You start hearing the parts of you that have been drowned out by noise. Not the noise outside, but the noise within. The voice that says you're behind. The one that tells you if you rest, you'll lose. The one that makes you grind endlessly, not out of love, but out of fear. But here's the truth. Peace isn't passive. It's an active choice. It's deciding that you won't betray your nervous system just to meet someone else's expectations. It's choosing presence over performance. When you stop forcing your way forward, you allow life to walk with you, not ahead of you. You stop missing the moment you're in because you're too focused on the one you're trying to reach. And strangely, when you stop trying to force progress, progress actually happens faster because it's not coming from resistance anymore. It's coming from alignment. There's less pushing, more flowing, less proving, more being. And in that being, you find your strength. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that moves quietly and confidently because it's rooted in trust. You don't need to chase peace anymore. You just need to stop blocking it. Sometimes we confuse control with safety. We think that if we just tighten our grip a little more, we'll finally feel secure. That if we plan everything down to the second, worry about every outcome, fix every flaw, we'll finally breathe easy. But in reality, it's the opposite. Control is exhausting. It wears you down slowly, like holding your breath all day, hoping nothing goes wrong, only to realize that nothing ever really feels right either. You don't feel free. You feel tense, disconnected, and underneath that tight grip, a fear that if you let go, everything will fall apart. But what if that's the lie? What if letting go is what makes things fall into place? You see, the more you try to control life, the more chaotic it feels. Because life was never designed to be wrestled into shape. It was meant to be co-created, not conquered. Surrender isn't about giving up. It's about opening up. Letting life meet you halfway instead of dragging it behind you. You start noticing more, feeling more, trusting your timing, trusting your path. The pressure to figure everything out, it softens. The urge to prove yourself, it quiets. Because you no longer need every step mapped out. You just need to be in step with yourself. And the irony is, this is when the real clarity comes. Not from obsessing over the future, but from being fully awake to what's happening now. The moment you stop forcing things, you start seeing what's actually meant for you. It's funny how much energy we waste trying to control things that were never ours to control. Other people's opinions, the speed of our progress, the path someone else thinks we should take. And we carry all of this like invisible weight, wondering why we feel so tired all the time. But it's not the world that's heavy. It's our grip on it. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. It just means we stop pretending that worry is the same thing as wisdom. We start realizing that trying to control every outcome isn't responsible. It's reactive. Because fear whispers, if you don't handle it all, you'll lose it all. But presence says, if you stop holding so tightly, life can finally breathe again. This is where something amazing starts to shift. You begin to trust that what's meant for you doesn't need to be forced. That peace doesn't come from certainty. It comes from surrender. You stop trying to outsmart the universe. You stop trying to fix things that aren't broken. And instead, you start noticing the moments that are already perfect, just as they are. Because truthfully, most of the beauty in life doesn't arrive when you chase it. It arrives when you make space for it. And that space, it only opens up when you loosen the grip. So you slow down, you breathe deeper, you become less reactive and more responsive. And that's when everything starts to align. not because you forced it to, but because you finally trusted yourself enough to stop. There's something rare that starts happening when you stop forcing things. You begin to see clearly, not just the world around you, but yourself, your habits, your patterns, your reactions. You stop operating from pressure and start moving from presence. And presence is powerful, because when you're fully here, in this moment, you stop trying to escape it. You stop rushing to the next thing, hoping that's where your peace will be. You start understanding that peace is what you bring, not what you chase. It's wild how much we complicate life by trying to control every step. We overthink conversations. We plan outcomes in our heads like we can script the future. We think if we just do enough, say enough, fix enough, we'll finally arrive. But when you pause that cycle, even for a moment, there's silence. And in that silence, something speaks. Not the voice of fear, not the noise of the outside world, but that quiet, steady knowing that's been there all along. You begin to see that not everything needs your reaction. Not every moment requires you to fix or prove or push. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not because you've given up, but because you've risen above. You're no longer trying to force open a door that was never meant for you. You're no longer chasing people who don't see you. You're no longer hustling for a version of success that doesn't feed your soul. You're finally moving with the current instead of against it. And ironically, that's when everything moves faster, because you're no longer the resistance. You trust your timing, you trust your path, and most importantly, you trust yourself. And maybe this whole time you thought your breakthrough would come when you did more, when you finally fixed every flaw, when you figured everything out, when you reached the finish line you imagined was just around the next bend. But the truth, breakthroughs rarely come from adding more. They come from stopping, from standing still long enough to finally hear what life has been whispering beneath the noise. You've tried the pressure, you've tried the hustle, you've tried proving your worth through overthinking, overgiving, and overstretching. And yet, the more you tried to hold it all together, the more things quietly fell apart. Because life doesn't respond to pressure the way you think it will. It responds to presence, to space, to softness. Not because effort is wrong, but because peace never blooms in a clenched fist. There's a kind of clarity that only shows up when you finally let yourself stop trying to force it. Not because you've given up, but because you're finally brave enough to trust what's already unfolding. Think about that. How much of your anxiety is rooted in trying to make life match a version you're afraid to release? How much energy do you spend holding things in place just so you won't feel like you're falling behind? But falling behind what, exactly? A timeline you never agreed to? A version of success that never truly belonged to you? You were never behind. You were just looking in the wrong direction, outward instead of inward. And when you start looking inward, when you stop wrestling with the currents and start floating with them, you'll realize you've been carried the whole time. It's not that your path wasn't working, it's that you forgot you are the path. And that clarity you were searching for, it's already living beneath your resistance, waiting for you to stop managing, stop controlling, stop pushing, and just be. So breathe, right now, just for a moment. Let go of the next step. Let go of needing this moment to be anything other than what it is. You don't need to do more to be okay. You don't need to become something else to be loved. You don't need to solve everything to finally exhale. You just need to be here, fully. Not fixing, not forcing, just surrendering to the moment and letting it hold you. Because in that surrender, something sacred unlocks. A kind of softness, a kind of power, a kind of truth that says, I no longer need to grasp for control. I trust that what's meant for me is already finding its way. And if this message spoke to you, if something inside you clicked, even for a second, drop a single word in the comments below. Release. No explanation, just that word. It lets me know you're walking this path too. And if you're not already part of this channel, subscribe. There's more coming, more stillness, more truth, more space to breathe. Until then, let go, let life, and I'll see you in the next one.